So Lorelai and Max have been dating for a couple of months at this point, and everything seems to be going really well.
I never read Proust. I always wanted to.
Take it.
You sure?
Take it. Read it. Not now.
Although things are still quite tense with Rory, as she doesn't know how best to approach the situation due to the double life she leads with Max. However, when the two of them are forced into an awkward social situation...
It's 8 o'clock. Who shows up at 8 o'clock for an 8 o'clock date? I don't know, maybe a Chilton teacher?
I tell you, he's cute, but this punctuality thing has knocked 10 points off the dream guy quotient.
Max decides it's probably best that they finally talk and figure out what they're going to do, since, as far as he's aware, everything's going pretty well with Lorelai and he's going to be sticking around for a while.
If things go well the way I hope they're going, then we might be doing this again.
Sitting uncomfortably?
Seeing each other outside of school. Why don't you call me Max? Just when we're out of school.
I don't think I can do that.
How about this then? We'll come up with non-Chilton names for each other. I'll call you Rebecca.
Rebecca.
And you'll call me?
Norman?
Norman? You know what? Norman's fine.
And this seems to work, which would be a good thing.
Hey, what if we invite Max to go skating with us?
Max?
Yeah, I thought maybe he'd want to go.
Well, you don't see him that much outside school.
No, but I probably will since you guys are obsessed with each other.
Rory's enthusiasm makes Lorelai nervous. Things don't get much better when Suki starts calling out Lorelai's behaviour and how she seems to be distancing herself from Max. And this is not the first time she's been in this situation.
He is.
That didn't sound very convincing.
No, he is. He is a great guy for someone.
This is about time you start doing a little getaway dance. 2 months, right on the nose, you're good.
I'm being practical. Rory is starting to get attached to Max, and that's not good.
On the subject of Suki, Lorelai makes her realise that it's been quite a while since she's been in a relationship herself.
When did you become a relationship expert? You haven't been in a relationship in years.
And you remember the character Jackson from earlier back in the season. He's had a couple of very minor appearances since I last spoke about him. Nothing really worth talking about until now, when Suki makes the decision to ask him out in particular. At Friday night dinner, despite everything that happened in the last episode, Emily's pretty much reverted back to the status quo, making Lorelai feel guilty about not reading the Chilton newsletter. It's especially frustrating this time around, as Chilton is holding a Parents' Day, and Lorelai is expected to attend, but since she's been avoiding Max for the past couple of days, she is somewhat worried about being with him. It's clear that Rory is definitely getting attached to Max, which is definitely a good thing, but it causes Lorelai to become concerned, worrying about the long-term ramifications of what happens if Rory settles on the concept of Max being a part of her life, and so Lorelai wonders if the best course of action is to distance herself from Max, either to just give herself time to think and process the situation, or to just avoid him so she doesn't have to worry about her feelings. At Chilton, Rory discovers that Paris' parents are going through a very public and messy divorce, which has very much caused Paris to become the butt of the joke for most of the students, to the point where Madeline and Louise are actively avoiding her and seem to be more interested in interacting with Rory instead. She also bumps into Max, who is quite uncomfortable and worried by the fact that Lorelai hasn't spoken to him in a while, but Rory tries to reassure him that everything is okay and he will be able to see her at the parents' event. Parents' Day arrives, and Lorelai and Max finally get a moment alone together.
You're breaking up with me, aren't you?
I don't know.
Not only are you breaking up with me, you're doing it really badly.
Am I being graded?
But Max isn't really happy about the situation, as he doesn't really understand why. In fact, she isn't quite sure about what she wants to do herself, as the two give in to passion, which is unfortunately seen by Paris. Still quite bitter towards Rory, she decides to try and use this knowledge to get people off her back about the divorce.
What's going on?
Oh, everyone's just talking about the mom that Mr. Medina was seen kissing just now.
Were you kissing him?
What?
Mr. Medina, just now, were you kissing him? Paris saw you. It's all over the school. You said you were breaking up with him.
I was. This is exactly why I didn't want to date him.
But I'm not a kid anymore.
No, you're right. You're a 40-year-old divorcee. My mistake.
I can't believe you're blaming this on me.
After some time passes, Lorelai and Max meet up at the cafe where they first discuss their relationship, where Max reveals that he has gotten in significant trouble with the headmaster because of his inappropriate behaviour. And because it could potentially impact his job, he believes that it is best that for the time being, Lorelai and he go their separate ways just to figure things out. Meanwhile, Rory finally gets sick of Paris's behaviour and calls her out on her hypocrisy, citing how bad she felt with everyone being aware of her parents' divorce. And to give Paris credit, she does realise that her behaviour was wrong and apologises. Now I've covered the overall story of this particular episode, I'd like to focus in on Lorelai and Max's relationship and my personal thoughts on it. It is clear that the two of them have much more of a casual relationship, or at least casual enough for Lorelai to be making these kind of jokes.
Mr. Medina, is this my extra credit work? Because Missy just had to take a test.
So, being told that you're suddenly in a long-term relationship can be quite nerve-wracking for someone. A lot of people in universe and within the fandom kind of villainize Lorelai for her behaviour, particularly in this instance. But I think I can understand where she's coming from. I'm in somewhat of a similar position when it comes to the character of Max. Liking him, but not being all that invested in his relationship with Lorelai, since with the benefit of hindsight and knowing where the show's ultimately going, I know there are definitely better people she could end up with and those she has better chemistry with. And from what we learn about it up until this point and what comes after for them, because we will be seeing Max again, this relationship definitely has an expiration date. Unfortunately, Lorelai realised this during a point where they're still good and still have chemistry, which can be difficult for someone. If you don't believe you have a future with them but you're still attracted to them, it may be difficult to decide whether it's wise to just end things now while they're still good or let the relationship run sour. It could potentially change for the better or for the worse, it's difficult to say. And by the episode she realises she's not quite ready to end the relationship with him, which is why it needed to be ended by somebody else. It's especially difficult because this is a situation where even if they do break up, Max is still going to have some sort of relationship with Rory and is going to be seeing her for the foreseeable future at Chilton. And so she was concerned that if Rory grew attached to her and they did break up, it would make things incredibly difficult for her. Which is why with all of her other relationships, she's chosen to keep them a secret from Rory. So when the time came that she got too attached, she could just get rid of them. We will also learn there are other people in her life that she is holding out for, people she ultimately thinks will be the one. Whether they actually are or aren't remains to be seen, but that is definitely something on her mind. And so ends Paris is Burning. So far, this is probably my least favourite episode of the show so far. But not necessarily a bad one, it's just I am not as invested in this one as I have been for the previous episodes. It doesn't help that this particular episode came after arguably two of the best of the entire show, so it's got a lot of competition that it doesn't quite live up to. Also, for me personally, I think this is a case where going back to the status quo is a bit frustrating, particularly for Emily in this case because of what happened in the last episode. I think just to repeat that scene from episode 9 like nothing ever happened, it is quite annoying. The same can be somewhat said for Paris, but as I said before, they will be sticking with her being on somewhat good terms with Rory for a couple of episodes, so it's fine in this case. But that is all for now. Thank you for watching. If you haven't already, please support the channel by hitting subscribe, turning on notifications, liking and commenting. You can find and follow me on Twitter here. And I'll see you next time for Double Date.
Great. Fine. Well, could you figure it out before French class? Because I'd rather you didn't start making out with Mrs. Collins.
Hey, no promises until I see what she looks like.